Welcome to Sincerely Japan, the drifting podcast.
All right, so we're back with another episode. This is episode 23, I think, 23. And we're here with TJ. He owns Yoi Kazoku here in San Antonio, Texas. And basically, like, Tyler is a friend of the podcast. He's been a friend of the podcast for a long time. He was the glue that kind of made this stick together, I think. Because ever since we started it, we always racked our brains on, like, who to talk to next or, like, what intrigues us.
Yeah, like more content one way or another, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, not even from a content perspective, but, I mean, we were talking about this off camera, was this kind of shit is, like, what we grew up with, and, like, very few people actually pull the trigger and, like, you know, commit to doing something that's this big of a venture.
Yeah, it was definitely scary when we first started. Like, you know, just even thinking about it kind of gave me the jitters.
Yeah,
so,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a big dream for a long time, and it's pretty cool to see it happening. You know, it's not always rainbows and butterflies like everybody thinks, but it's definitely worth the work that goes put into it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
what was the kind of shift in your mindset where it went from being a hobby to, like, oh, I could make this a full-time thing?
you know, it's kind of different. How it started is, you know, obviously I got into drifting and started meeting people. And then through that, I had met Justin Givens, who's my business partner. And I met him in drifting. He was well known for all the work that he's done, you know, working on multiple 240s, Skylines, all that stuff over at R&N Garage, which unfortunately is no longer around. And one day he just approached me and said, I want to open a shop. And we both kind of had the same dream in a different aspect. Is I wanted to own a shop and kind of be the face and talk on the phone and meet people and make it happen. And he wanted to open a shop where he got to just work outside while somebody else did that. We kind of just looked at each other and high-fived, and we came together and just kind of made it happen without knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
was there something in your personal life that kind of made you take the plunge as well? Or was it just kind of like, I'm ready for this next chapter, and you stepped into it?
It was kind of my kids, and then just kind of my own want for what I wanted to do as well. I didn't want to be that guy that always kind of dreamed of it and was working at a place that he hated every single day, which was something that I was kind of already doing in the automotive industry, but I wanted to make it something of my own. And then when I started realizing when I needed help with my car, that I didn't know how to answer a question, I couldn't just go to a shop that would say, let me take this pile of shit Miata and help you out. You know, they looked at me and pretty much told me to kick rocks. And then that's when Justin took a chance at looking at it and basically pointed me in the right direction and got me moving. So with my kids and everything, I wanted to have something that they could look back and say, my dad did this. That's super awesome. Plus, both my boys are into cool stuff like this. So I'm hoping they're willing to jump in and kind of take over when I'm ready to stop.
Right.
You know, so that was kind of my motivation with doing this, was family, kids, and just my own goals.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another interesting thing about specifically like the drifting community is this kind of shop didn't exist 15 years ago in America. You know, there wasn't like a customer base for it. Everybody did this shit out of their garage. Do you think that kind of played a part in that decision too, of like there's not really anything that's here that's like this? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, again, like trying to go to shops and no one wanting to help with some kind of a drift car, that's something we wanted to provide. And being that we saw how big drifting is getting in Texas, we knew that there was an opportunity to kind of jump into that niche market. And with seeing Justin's clientele he already had, and the way that his work speaks for himself, it kind of helped me make that decision that we were going to make a shop that would specialize for what we want to do and what we wanted to see. And luckily, it was what a lot of other people wanted to see as well.
Right.
So knowing that there was no shop around like this, we wanted to take that gamble. And so far, it's worked out very well.
I mean, and it's rad as hell to come in 2023 and see, you know, a yard full of cars and every bay is taken up. I mean, that's like, what did the early days look like for you?
The early days, actually, we didn't expect any of this. You know, we looked for spaces forever, and we were finding spaces half this size that was triple the price. And we found this place. The landlord was really cool. He actually came to us and said, this is your first business. We're going to help you out. And they cut us some really cool deals to where we could get started as a small business with small capital.
Yeah.
The early days, we expected these 2 bays out of our 4-bay shop to just be our shop and rent out the last 2. And within the first 6 months, all the bays were full.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we actually blew up so fast that we didn't know what to do. We weren't going to have employees. We weren't going to do any of that. It was just going to be me and Justin.
Yeah.
And it turned into, okay, we need help. The people just piled in.
Yeah.
And that's how we knew that opening a shop with this niche was going to work.
Right. What, like, when you think about building a shop, how much went into buying the tools, buying the hoists, all of the shit that comes with owning it? Like, now you've got, an alignment machine. It's like, did those early days look starkly different?
Oh, absolutely. I could show you pictures of this place where there's like 1 picture on the wall and 2 cars sitting in here, and that's it. Like the alignment rack and all these lifts, they all came in time. Justin and I are a very firm believer that obviously you got to water your plants to get your garden. So we never took this company and saw like, hey, this big job just cashed out. Let's go home with a bunch of money in our pockets.
Right.
It always went back into the company, which helped us grow to where we are today. Because like I said, we started with this 1 red lift, and that's all we had.
Yeah.
So this was the first big piece of equipment that we purchased and had to pay off, and it has paid itself off obviously in the first like couple months. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, everything started and grew very slowly.
Yeah.
So.
And we were talking about this off camera, but like, tell me again about like early days with TJ wrenching on the Miata under a tarp.
Dude, so I first met this guy, and he was like, "Who is this guy?" And then we bonded because I had an SR240.
We have to stop right there. We were like, who is this young kid who is like 8 years younger than us showing up to my house trying to drink beer with us? But carry on.
I've heard this from multiple people,
true.
so I know it's true.
But pretty much I was like, yeah, I have an SR240. And everyone was like, oh, dude, that is freaking awesome. And I didn't really go drifting or anything like that. I was really like interested in like the canyon carving, kind of like road trips up to Austin, take like 4 hours to get to Austin, take like back roads. That was kind of my thing for a while. I kind of got into drifting from TJ and hanging out with them and helping them wrench. I remember like I was just talking like on like off camera earlier. The time hop, like what 6-7 years ago maybe now, or so.
Easily.
He had a little duplex, that crappy Miata he was talking about earlier, with the whatever 1.6 liter. Popped it. Had to change it. We had like the blue tarp, from Harbor Freight, like giving us shade, and just hung out all weekend. And that time hop came up, and then he was like, "Hey, come over. We're gonna hang out at the shop tonight and get ready, like get some stuff ready." I was like, "Dude, it's crazy. Like just this morning, I saw the time hop of like dreams, and like we were all like, back
Right.
then we're all like, dude, how awesome would that be? Have like a shop, and they did this, and like custom alignments and everything like that, and like had like hookups and like new people and stuff like that, and then just coming over here, hanging out, seeing that in the morning, like, dude, I'm so proud of you. I think everyone is.
I appreciate it, man.
Like, especially in San Antonio and, like, back in the days of, like, what was it before even Club Loose was here? Day of Drift or whatever,
Day
right?
of Drift.
That's
Man.
exactly where I was
like,
going with this. Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. Like,
oh,
Man, Day of Drift, man, that was like the super early days where when you went out and like linked 2 of the turns of the track, you really thought you were a badass.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lone
shoot,
Star
even
Drift
before
was-
Day of Drift was when Drift Corpus was around. Drift Corpus was my first drift event in the Miata back when I thought drifting was the dumbest thing that you could have ever done with a car.
Man. Yeah.
And it still is, but it's amazing. But yeah, Day of Drift was kind of a little bit of a free-for-all when you went drifting out there. I mean, I feel like you could get away with anything, which at the time was fun, but now looking at it with rules, we now see how important safety is and what can happen, you know? So, yeah. But Day of Drift was fun.
I remember the first event I ever went out, my SR240, was Day of Drift, and it was 1 hour per lap. Just because the insurance, like at the track that we were at, was so unsure. Yeah, dude, it was like 45 minutes to an hour per lap. And it was like just all, like, no one popular came. Like, no one from Lone Star Drift. No one really knew about it. It was still, like, really low-key. It was just all the San Antonio community. It was like 45 minutes or so per lap.
Was that just how long the grid was, or this like they would only let you drive that
Only
for
one
the
car
insurance?
on track. Yeah, only
Got
one
it.
car on track. And
Yeah.
and then everyone was, like he said, like, everyone was spinning out, and then people were doing like burnouts and stuff like that. Like, oh look, I drifted. It's like, well,
I remember
okay.
they pulled the barrel out just randomly in the middle of the day and started just filming people doing donuts around the barrel.
I remember that, yeah.
And I only remember that because I was like, yeah, I could do that. And I hit the barrel and knocked it like 40 feet. So,
Watched it.
Fun times.
Yeah. So was that the first kind of event organization out of San Antonio?
From what I saw, yeah. We had heard that there was a couple events before, but this was before I got into drifting, so I couldn't tell you who it was or what they did. But for me and for what we had seen after a big break of nothing was Day of Drift.
And the only thing around at that time was like Lone Star.
Yeah.
Like that was the only thing. I guess I wasn't too deep into the scene, but like that was like,
where is Lone Star actually based out of? Is that Houston?
So they're mainly based out of Houston from what I know, but
Yeah.
they would do Houston and Dallas
I was
events.
going to say, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty all encompassing as far as like those two cities go. It seems like, at least. And then San Antonio is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Texas drifting.
don't really
Yeah.
have anywhere right
I
now.
know back in the day, like a lot of the San Antonio drivers were a little frowned upon going to Lone Star just because I think of how the small events that were ran here were done. I don't know like all the details in that, but I do know that I've heard from a lot of people that are more seasoned that if you were a San Antonio driver, you were kind of looked at differently when you would go to some of those events.
Yeah.
But from what we've seen now, I mean, I've been to multiple Lone Star events, and from what I've seen, it's all just as welcoming as everything else.
Right.
So Aaron does a great job out there.
That's awesome. And so let's talk kind of like, so we've run it. Did they run it at Alamo City Motorplex back then too?
Yeah, that's the only place those events went, other than a few of them at Retama Park horse race track.
Oh yeah, that's where they do the.
That's where they autocrossed a lot. That's where I got my start. I had a little, 98, 97? No, not even, like a 92 S13, completely stock, first car ever. That's where I started getting into cars, was like that 240 and autocrossing over there with those guys.
Yeah.
But it was a cool crew, but it was like a little too serious for parking lot racing. You know
They
what I
do
mean?
get real serious with like trailers and shit, and I'm like, dog.
Dude, like you're
racing.
coming out for 6 hours to get maybe like 2 minutes total of lap time, and
yeah.
I don't want to knock on it. You know what I mean? Because
We're knocking
everyone
on
has
it.
their
No,
own
let's
thing.
knock
We're
on it.
knocking on it. We're knocking on it hard. Everyone has their thing though. You know what I mean? And when
yeah.
I was like 16, 17, getting into like performance driving, and like, dude, that taught me a lot of what I know now. Like
Right.
just like getting the reflexes down and like tossing my car in there and just figuring it out, like the Chicago box and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun to learn.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just like a start. You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel like I kind of feel like it works backwards, and maybe it's not backwards, but I feel like when you understand and you can drift, it makes you a better grip driver.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
you
Well,
understand that limit of oversteer in the car, I think, a little bit better than if you only did grip.
the biggest thing was how to recover from it and not let it ruin your time.
Yeah. And so it's been Alamo City for a while. Recently, we opened up to the karting complex. We talked about that in the Knuckle Up episodes. And then Club Loose finally announced that they were kind of stepping back from the San Antonio scene. So that's where you come into play.
Yeah, we weren't really super prepared for it right away when they had announced it to us that they were ready to step back. But Danny and Tyler from Club Loose had been running that stuff for such a long time, and they had done such a great job. But for them, I don't think they expected it to be as big as it was. They had actually told us that as well, that they didn't expect Club Loose to blossom the way it did. And it did nothing but a great job.
Yeah.
But at this point, they decided that it was time to step back because they want to actually attend these events
Right.
now as drivers and, finally take a little break from all the chaos that can
Yeah.
come from running a drift event.
Well, it's monthly, too. I mean, it's like that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first moved here, it was, I came out to an event when it was still at Alamo City, and it was like, oh, there's a whole scene. Like, there were probably, I went to I think I met you at an event, and there were hundreds of people.
Oh.
It was slammed. I mean, everybody was it was like midsummer.
It was like our end of year bash.
Yeah, we
I
would
think.
see 150
Maybe, yeah.
drivers on some of those days. The big ones, like he said, end of year bash or sleigh ride.
Yeah.
Those events, the 2-day events. I mean, I think in total, even with drivers that would only come from Saturdays or Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'd see totals of at least 200 drivers in a whole weekend, not including the 400 spectators that showed up with them.
Right. Yeah.
So
It was freaking insane.
we're definitely working on trying to do something where we can try to bring that vibe back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool things in the works. Some things that I can't really go too in depth with until I have a definite answer.
For sure.
But we have some really cool announcements about possibly making it out to Rolling Oaks Mall and using some of their old
Nice.
parking lots just
Yeah.
because that mall's unfortunately not doing too well.
Right.
And then we just got permission as well to go to the River City Community Church where they host autocross.
Yeah.
And their lot is huge, and
I've autocrossed at that one too.
Yeah, and
It's awesome.
that lot's so big that we'll be able to do the tracks like we want to and make it an old school parking lot party.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what a lot of people wanted. You know, everybody wanted a track. We gave them a track. The kart track's great. It does really, really well. But at the end of the day, when you're running the kart track, you do start to get kind of bored of the same layout for 10 months straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so giving them back to parking lot events and still going to the karting complex will give you that mixture of both.
Right.
Yeah, I think the karting track is really fun because it's like you get the muscle memory and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I did something new to my car. Just lay it on lock and go around the track and like see however the feeling is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to like change up the events or change up the track and actually like progress as a driver,
Right.
not just what your car is.
Well, and they can learn core skills too in a parking lot with a little less repercussion than hitting a wall or a barrier or going off course or whatever. So having kind of both of those options, I think, would be really good for younger drivers, especially as well.
Yeah, I think you kind of need both because like
Right.
we were in Japan, MSP. There's definitely repercussions, but like when
That
you're
shit was daunting, dude.
oh,
like,
dude,
as a
so
beginner.
I remember my
Yeah,
first
there's
time. I was like-
repercussions. You flipped your car into a ditch.
that did happen. I was also dubbing on 20s that I got for free, and the e-brake didn't quite lock up.
On 20s.
Hey, have
20
you,
is dog
have you
free.
seen that really nice book that they just came out with? It's called The Book of Drifting Excuses. I'm pretty sure he has a copy of it.
So they did the dorm clearouts, and someone had 20s with like fresh like Falcon somethings on them or whatever.
Was this in the R32?
Yeah, in the Skyline back in Japan.
On 20s.
On 20s, dude. I'll have to dig up the picture.
Only a
It's-
Japanese dude would do this, dude. Like,
dude.
You were 2 inches away from being a donk.
Dude, it was awesome, but the e-brake did not work. Even like on the Skyline,
Yeah.
it has like the drum e-brake that's like freaking on-off switch. It's
Right.
amazing, but like on those 20s, not quite. So I was still learning how to drive too, and like this is when I was like just on scrubs, getting like the cheapest tires I could, and freaking hit a manji, tried to slow down on the transition, didn't quite work, and just went into the ditch over there.
oh, I remember that.
Yeah, dude. Good times, man. Good times.
Yeah, I remember waking up in the middle of the night to a picture that just says, "Look what I did," and I see half a Skyline staring at the sky, going, "Oh man, this is great."
Yeah, but that was a $2,000 RB25 swapped.
Convertible.
Convertible,
That was
yeah.
never really a convertible.
So the guy
Yeah.
before me
Yep.
flipped it.
Shout out to Josh.
Yeah, Josh. Cut the roof off, put a bolt-in cage in it, and
Yeah, and when we say cut the roof off, he cut off every pillar at the body.
It
A
was-
pillar, B pillar, C pillar, all of them, and just did a cage. No
Yep.
windshield.
dude, so sick.
Most
bro.
it was awful. As a rider, I was terrified.
Oh, dude, isn't that the most fun though?
No, I rode in it with Josh, and it was terrifying.
That car turned me into like wanting a cage for build.
Yeah, maybe if there was a windshield.
Yeah,
I think the
windshield,
lack
for
of
sure.
windshield really fucked me up.
Dude, oh, like my
And
neck.
the bolt-in cages, don't trust them.
Oh no, not at all.
So no roof plus a Cusco, like, oh yeah, this is great.
especially
thanks.
running like D1 line, like tandeming in like third gear
Right.
with a bolt-in cage and like no supports whatsoever.
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck either, dude. They were chilling.
Dude, it was so nice. But
yeah,
yeah, that's where I was learning. It was a good time, dude.
We'll throw a photo of this one on the Instagram page for you guys listening. We haven't talked about this yet, and I'm glad you brought it up because I probably would have forgotten to bring that up. Probably, and I think I've brought it up in the podcast before, speaking of Josh, but never from your perspective coming in because Josh had it when it was still like a fine car.
Yeah, like when I got it, it was still like wood trim and everything like that, and like super pristine, like car on the inside. But it was definitely ratted out by the time I got a hold of it.
Yeah, they had it painted like Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, it had the he had to put a GTR on hood on it, which I think it kind of hurt him because I didn't latch it completely down all the way, and it flipped back over the roll cage and bent it, which is, I guess GTR hoods are really hard to come by. I didn't know. And
Oh,
it-
really?
Yeah. And he was kind of hurt. He's like, oh, man. He's like, that hood was really nice. I was like, dude, I'm sorry.
And
dude,
Josh
I
is
didn't
so
know."
nice, too, so
Yeah,
you feel
he's-
extra bad.
Dude, he's like such a good dude. So like he was like for me like the mentor when I was in Japan. Like
Yeah.
I remember going to just like one of my friends in the shop I got to, he was like, "Hey dude, we're gonna go drifting." I was like, "Oh, that's sweet, dude. I want to go check this out. Like, let's go." And I met Josh there. He's like, yeah, dude, I got a car, 2000. And I was with another buddy of mine, and he's like, oh, for you, you already have a drift car, 2500. And he's like, what? That's not fair. Like, Josh was like, get someone new into it and kind of like shelter, like, I guess I wasn't new into it. I've gone to events, kind of dipped my toes in, but I wasn't like super hardcore about it yet. But he was like, okay, I see someone interested, and like kind of nurture, and like, okay, cool, let's do it. And like in Japan too, you don't really like, for just first term, like overseas, I didn't have a garage. Didn't really have money.
Right.
It was like $400-500 a week, like pretty low like living. But he was like, yeah, use my tools, and if you need a hookup, like I have this hookup, and like I'll get you tires and everything. So it was like, he was definitely like, for me, like kind of like the father figure in that scene, which was awesome because he did that for everyone too.
He was everybody's daddy for sure.
Yeah, exactly. He had the Connex. This guy was balling. He had a Connex at the track, freaking full of like tires and stuff like that and rims. Dude, it was sick.
Yeah, they just let him keep it.
I still have to make it to Japan sometime. Like I've yet to go.
Let's go.
It's been. Let's go. Right
I've
now.
been trying to go specifically for the podcast, but
yeah,
I want to go for a Matsuri.
Dude.
And because Donnie
and we
could
got
get us a
connections
car.
to get us cars too.
That's
and
right.
everything. Like
that's right. Donnie's got a car hauler.
Dude, freaking! Did you see Bryant just picked up like a $50
Man,
T50Z?
fuck Bryant, dude. He's TJ, but in Japan, he gets like every car he wants. It's fine. He like has all of this, but like nowhere to put it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he probably has like half a dozen, maybe 10 cars. Yeah.
I'm getting yelled at just for having like 3.
Dude, same.
Yeah, but Bryant, see, he's got nobody to yell at him though. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's a double-edged sword. Like which way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get yelled at. Like, you have too many cars. I'm like, you have too many shoes. Hold on a second.
Right. Yeah.
You chose that life.
We all have
Yeah,
our
I know.
vices. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But let's go back to the events, right? So we've got a bunch of new stuff on the schedule. What did that Passover look like for you to take over organizing it?
So we had been helping them with these events for the past maybe 4.5, 5 years. So after about 3 years, we started paying closer attention as to how they were ran. And then that's when they approached us and said, you know, we want you guys to help more. So we pretty much helped with everything other than the financials when it came to the track. And after doing that, that's when they approached us about 6 months ago and told us, we want to step away. We want you guys to take it over. We had a small feeling something like that was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to be us directly, but once they had told us and we kind of accepted it, the transition was nice, slow, and easy. It wasn't anything crazy. I think the most stressful part of it was trying to come up with a schedule that matched with all the other events that happen in Texas, like Drift Corpus and Lone Star Drift. But we got them all together. We got names for all the events, which is really cool because Club Loose is really good at naming all their events something awesome. We have one event that's going to happen in July that the event name is Faux King Hot. You know, so
That's gonna be sick.
make sure you're there.
Got to get a food truck out there for sure.
Yeah, we have
sure.
one that's on Mother's Day weekend that's called Your Mom Likes Drifting. I mean, and we want everybody to bring their moms. Like, come out. You know, if anybody else is seeing this, bring your moms. But
young
yeah,
gravy.
Yeah, dude. I was just about to say that, bro.
yeah. But we actually want to put a montage together for that event with everybody putting GoPros in their cars and trying to take their moms for rides and getting their reactions.
That'd be awesome.
We thought that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff in the works. Like I said, new venues, still staying at the kart track as well, but bringing a little diversity to what we're doing.
What does that look like for you? I mean, what are all things considered? Because you have to look through like insurance and then booking with the venue. Like, how much logistics go into just putting on one event, let alone several?
A lot more than you would really think. I mean, I remember probably 8 or 9 years ago going with one of my, actually 2 of my buddies, Matt Bingston and Jeremy McKinney, and we approached the track and they said, you know, you could rent the track for $3,500 at that time. And we didn't even think about the logistics. We just thought we don't have $3,500.
Right.
So now with this, as seeing how it goes, I mean, I spent 4 hours yesterday driving around town going face to face with these venues. One of them, which had told me no just over the phone. And once I approached him, you know, face to face, just had a normal conversation with him, he was all about it. Showed him a couple of videos what we do. He liked it, but yes, there's insurance involved. There's meeting with the venues, explaining to these venues what we do without them thinking that we're trying to throw a takeover in their parking lot.
Right.
You know, as a shop and with drifting, that's one thing that we don't condone, and we try to make sure that people know you can go and learn how to do this stuff in a good environment. But with putting all this together, that's the hardest part, is explaining it, because to people that don't understand drifting, we're just a bunch of dudes showing up to do a bunch of dumb shit in your parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, but insurance, waivers, you know, keeping track of all the drivers that are going to register, you know, keeping track of all the groups, making sure that A group or B group doesn't get overfilled before C group, and not being able to accommodate all drivers. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Luckily, having Justin and having a volunteer group that helps us out as well, of 9 people, we all kind of have small assigned roles that help make things run smooth. And without
Right.
that team, we would be dead in the water.
Do you have to cap it at a certain number when you approach the venues or the insurance and be like, there's only going to be this finite amount of people that join?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got a lot of feedback last year about people upset that they couldn't make it to the kart complex because there weren't enough tickets. But at the karting complex, we can only facilitate roughly 60 drivers, just due to
gotcha.
pit space, track size. Back at the old track, we would cap it at 150 drivers.
Jesus.
And even then, most of those events, we wouldn't fill 150, but we'd be pretty damn close.
Yeah.
But even then, you know, unless it's some kind of specialty event, you have to be careful about what cap you have, and basically monitoring who's showing up to these events as well.
Right.
You know, because you always get that one character that shows up to show out,
Of course.
and it just,
Wouldn't know who that is.
yeah, neither do I.
Or pop their drive shaft on literally the first corner.
Yeah, you were talked about in the meetings there by the owner of the track. He knows who you are.
Sorry
Is that the
about
guy that was beating his hood with a hammer?
Got a clearance. Hey, got a clearance, dude.
Yeah.
Did you fix your push start yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I got a little. Like a, what do you call it? A panel now.
Last time I drove your car, your push start was in the passenger side on the floor, all the way by the feet, like under the blower motor.
Let's not talk about that.
And you,
Was that
I'm
spotted
not-
during tech?
No.
Man, we're gonna have to start
I
teching
kind
your
of hit
car
it.
a
I
lot
was
more.
like, yeah, wow, it just goes out by the key, guys.
Well, now that I know that, you just failed tech for the whole year.
I'll bring the other car.
that was the
That was
ghetto
gonna
as
fail
shit.
tech
There you
too.
go. Hey, JZX100, JZX90 comes
90,
out.
dog.
Yep.
90. The $8,000 JZX90. It's not perfect, but it runs.
That's the cheapest JZX90 in America for sure.
Oh, I know for sure.
The cheapest nice one.
Well, yeah, relatively nice. It's like 3 shades of red.
I did not know what to think when you told me the price you paid for it. That's why I was like, you're literally probably about to buy like the biggest pile of shit that anyone's ever seen, and it actually turned out to be a pretty nice car.
Yeah.
For
Thanks,
that
buddy.
price.
Yeah.
For that price.
That's the first time he's complimented me.
Thanks.
Otherwise, he's just like,
It's because of the podcast. wait till the mics are off.
yeah, seriously. Like, that thing's you should just sell it for $5,000. Sell it to me.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
I'll take that L for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. The drive up to Abilene, the freaking barn find, dude.
I'll trade
all
you back your
rusty.
Z.
Ooh, that's a sore spot.
That's right. Yeah. So we haven't talked about that. So let's go a little bit back in your history. So you started out in Miatas, like NA and B both?
It was an NA Miata, 92 with a long nose 1.6. It was
Okay.
nothing special. It made probably a whopping 90 horsepower to the wheels.
Boom, 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 boom. Everywhere.
Well, the
every
1.6s have kind of a cult following, don't they?
They do. They're actually, even though that's just a 1.6, they're peppy. And you know, there's always that saying like you don't want to drive a fast car slow, but driving a slow car fast is a blast. Like,
Right.
I love that thing. I mean, being pinned in 5th gear at 90 miles an hour cutting traffic, you thought you were hauling ass, and you get passed by an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
But no, I started in a Miata, and it was a fun car, and I got it for $500, so I wasn't going to complain.
Right.
So I mean, to me, it was a street legal go kart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all they are. Yeah,
And
for sure.
So Tyler kind of alluded to it. So the 1.6 blew up.
The 1.6 actually never blew up. Tyler was wrong on that, but I did reseal it. It had a horrible leak.
Oh, gotcha.
But I was actually online one day and just kind of looking around, and I had seen someone else that had done it, and I figured, man, I want to try something cool. And I met a guy who had a CA18 in his Miata.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else here in town ended up buying it off of him and parting it out. So I went and bought the CA just because I said I wanted to boost the 1.6.
Right.
But when I saw the opportunity to maybe do something that might be a little different and maybe have some cool points to it, I said, why not put a baby RB in it?
So what did you pay for the CA back in the day?
I actually paid $600 for the whole swap.
Out of here, bro.
Swear to God.
Fuck all the way out of here.
$600 I paid for that, and I think I traded him a Harbor Freight foldable trailer that was worth like $150.
God damn it, dude. You can't even find a KA for that price these days, dude.
You'd be pissed to know
Dude.
that I sold the Miata with both CAs that needed a little work for $800. So,
Yeah.
but they were both, the cranks were probably destroyed in both of them.
Yeah, they were both
course.
blown
But-
up. Yeah, those are blown up.
But back to it, I got the CAs. I was not very mechanically inclined at the time. Like, I was still learning. So that was my first motor swap. And I did it all in my garage. And that's where the whole meeting Justin kind of came in, because that's when the car started having problems trying to get it running right. And I got it running, and I got it to move under its own power, but it just wouldn't go into boost, and it ran like hell. Dropped it off with Justin, and he had it for a couple days and calls me back and says he got a bad ECU, and that's probably because of a bad harness. So I started looking for a wiring specialties harness, and I came across another guy selling a CA for $500. So I bought 2 of them for dirt cheap,
Yeah.
and his had a brand new wiring specialties harness on it.
Oh,
so I
nice.
bought the motor to keep as a spare, put the harness on.
Shit, dude. I mean,
And we replaced the ECU, got it tuned by Martin at RS Enthalpy, and then the car made just under like 340 horsepower.
no way.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I remember
and-
it was like, it kind of blew everyone's mind. We're like,
How
what?
long did it hold that for, though?
Well, it was surprising. We didn't expect it to hold it for long because you're not supposed to put over about 15 pounds into a
Yeah.
stock CA. And we had a TD05 18G turbo that I found that came off of a built Evo. And back then I was just dumb enough to think big turbo, big power.
Yeah.
And so I slapped that on there. And when I read the boost gauge, every time I'd hit it, it was 21 pounds. So it lasted about a year and a half. And then, believe it or not, it actually blew up because I blew a turbo return line on the track, didn't pay attention to it, and hot lap like 4 laps, and ended up running it out of oil and rod knocked it.
Jeez.
So,
Yeah.
but
wow, that's
it was
wild.
It was a peppy little thing. It was probably one of the most fun cars I've owned. It was the jankiest car ever, but it was
It was worse than my
It was so
240.
much. Oh, way worse.
Was it?
Way worse. Your
Really?
240 was a dime piece compared to my Miata.
It was bad.
Wow.
And actually, so funny story. I put the other motor in it, and I have an event coming up that landed right on my birthday. And so I rushed putting the other CA in, and I never even went and looked back at that line. So I threw the car together the day before the event, put the motor in, it ran, and I said, let's go. Got to the track, ran about 6 laps, and blew it up. And so I called this guy who's in Japan.
I'm there playing like
And-
Call of Duty or something. Like, it's like I'm on night shift, on lunch
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. And he's always bragged about this 350Z he had that he was going to LS swap. And I'd never seen the car, never seen the LS, never seen anything.
I've had it for like 2 years.
I call him and I said, man, I blew the car up, and it's on my birthday and it sucks. I just wanted to call and say hi because I'm sitting here pouting. And I said, you should just sell me that Z, joking, thinking that he was just blowing
Right.
smoke up my ass. Then he jokes with me and he goes, yeah, make me an offer. I said, $500, just joking with him. He goes, give me 6 and it's yours. I hung up on him and immediately PayPal'd him $600. And then he called me
Yeah.
back and said, okay, I guess it's yours.
And that actually rolled over, and it worked out perfect because that rolled over into the Skyline. So,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was like right before an event. I was like, dude, I need 600 more bucks. He offered me 5, and I was like, he's not gonna do it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I remember I went to Josh's like all 20s. I was like, here you go. Joe,
$2,000 in 20s?
dude.
That's 100. Let me do my math here.
That's
a-
race car stripper money.
How many? I'm spending too much time trying to do math here, dude.
Oh, dude, it was a
5
lot.
times 10, 50.
Yeah.
That's 120s.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a brick of 20s.
And knowing him, he walked in and threw it
Yeah.
up in the air, just kind of let it rain for a minute.
No, there was an event that day, and I was like, hey, Josh, when do you wake up? I want to go to this event and drive the car. He's like, oh, yeah, it's already all set up. It's got tires on it and everything. Just whenever you give me $2,000, you can rag on it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, bet. I'll be there in the morning. And it was like Saturday. Go over, hit the ATM. I had to like up my limit. It was a pain in the butt to get
Right,
it. Like,
always,
dude.
dude.
Why is it
Yeah.
always like a G or two? Like it's always just
Well,
ugh.
and you never have this problem in America because you never need to pay cash, but in Japan it's cash all the time.
Everything's cash. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So I went over there with a freaking brick of 20s, gave it to him, and tore off the tires that he already like put on it and everything. They like the Advan, the 3-spoke,
Threw
like
the donks on it.
yeah.
Just went ripping.
And it went ripping, dude.
Put the donkeys on it.
But yeah, but I was like, man, I'm not gonna make this event until I get another paycheck. And I was like, I'm just gonna eat ramen and eat at the DFAC and save all my money.
Right.
And he's like, I just need $600, and it worked out perfect, dude.
That's awesome.
But I was like, man, I'm in Japan for another like 18 months. I was like, I ain't gonna do nothing with it. Whatever, dude, take it.
yeah.
It had no motor in it, like a
Right.
cracked subframe. I don't even know how bad it was. It was
Hey,
just sitting
like
in
it
my
is right
buddy's-
now.
Yeah. It was just sitting in my buddy's backyard, and I was like, man, he was talking about moving and everything. I was like, I gotta do something with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, Yeah, sure.
Dude, the best deals are the joking deals where you're like, I'll give you whatever. And
Yeah.
right.
Here you go. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't go back on it. But I was like, I also don't really need it for another year and a half. And I was like,
That's
I'm
kind
gonna
of
do
what's
easy.
happening tonight too. I feel kind of bad.
Yeah, he made sure I drove the truck so we could go trade a boat for an S13 tonight.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's a good trade.
Yeah, S13 with an SR, I'm not going to complain. I
Yeah.
mean, a built SR at that.
Need some work.
Why not?
Is this gonna replace the Z or no?
So everybody's saying it is. I love my Z because it drives itself, and I know everybody kind of hates on them because everybody's got one, but it's
Yeah.
a terrific car, But I also drove this white S13 behind me at the last event because the car was dead and drove it all day, and I had so much fun driving a boosted car just because you got to kind of work for it a little more. The power is just not directly there.
Right.
And so there's a small possibility that may be bigger than small that I might end up replacing the Z with the S13
I think it's a good move.
because it is a
Top
coupe.
two.
I can't.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
super excited that it's a coupe.
Yes.
That's probably the only reason I'm doing this.
And it's that beautiful 350Z blue, isn't it?
I wouldn't
Or what
say
kind of
beautiful,
blue?
but yeah, it's blue.
It's
that,
a
it's that,
blue.
it's like that real dark 350Z blue.
Yeah.
That's, it looks so
It's got a
good.
D-Max, like an actual D-Max hood, not just the cutout in it and everything.
Nice.
So
It's
that's
got
got
good
me a little
parts.
stoked.
I'm glad
but-
you bring that up. I think we need to go on the record and say the S13 Coupe is far better than the S13 Hatch.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is that I feel like that's an unpopular opinion, though. I feel like a lot of people would probably prefer the Hatch.
I feel like people with hatches would say they prefer the hatch.
I was just about to say that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either or. I mean, but the coupe, for some reason, to me, as in my personal opinion, the coupe is way cleaner.
It's way more gangster, too. Like,
Yeah.
if you kit it out and
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
looks way more gangster.
I mean, if I
Yeah.
wasn't going to build it for drifting, that car would just be built to be as clean as possible.
Yeah.
But
I
we all
remember-
know you don't build a clean car to go drifting.
No.
No.
Well, some people do. Knuckle up.
That's true.
But I remember like back in like 2014, 2015, kind of when I was getting into things, like the S14 was like the rich kid drift car. The S13 hatch was like
Ragged
the poor
as
kid
fuck,
drift car.
yeah.
And the S13 coupe was like, dude, you just got lucky.
And then the S12 was like the farm kid.
Oh yeah, like the farm kid. Yeah, yeah. It probably had like some John Deere in it or something.
I got my daddy's cat. No, I mean the coupe's definitely a lot more desirable in the S13 chassis. But to anybody who has a hatch, I don't hate them. They're great cars too.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, I
you
love
could
both
have
of
gotten a coupe.
Could have. Exactly.
Yeah, you just
dude.
got to get lucky to find one of those. I feel like they're a lot more rare than like
Well,
hatches.
and it's funny you say that because before we even started this, I was sitting with one of my guys just on Marketplace, just looking.
Dude, I have
and
an
Marketplace
addiction to
is
Marketplace.
so dry on 240s, and I
Yeah.
think I saw one coupe on there with a Jay-Z or something in it. The guy was selling for 25 grand.
Right.
disgusting.
You know,
Can I
but
get 15 for the 240? Mine LS.
no, okay, look, 5.3 LSs aren't as desirable as regular LSs, but it is a V8 car, and it does that car fucks.
Dude, that car is so dirty. You know it.
I'd
It's so
say
dirty.
I'm gonna say
I'd say
like
a solid
10.
12.
Okay.
12.
Okay.
That's
That's-
generous.
I'd say 12 because S14s are still worth a decent amount of money. The shell alone is probably worth a decent amount of money
It's not too tore up yet.
yet. Not until you catch
It's
these
been in a
doors.
wreck. Like
Has
most 240s, yeah.
Damn, dude.
That's why I don't feel too bad about like LSing and hitting the firewall and stuff like that. It's
Right.
a drift car.
That's true. That's true. So tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here. So this is a shop car, the S13, right?
Yeah, that's Justin's car.
If you're not watching the video podcast, you're fucking up. If you're listening in the
sure.
car, but thanks just for listening, period. But I'm just saying we do have videos now. 280Z?
Yeah, that's a 280Z that has an RB30 in it.
RB30, so remind me. I know it's a different bottom end, top end. What is it exactly? It's a 30 bottom end?
It's a 3 bottom end. It's got the RB26 head, so the 2.6 head on top. I think he's running the Greddy GT3 turbos, if I'm not mistaken. That car makes a little over 550, and I drove it just the other day to do some testing for some electrical work we did, and that has scared me more than like some of the like 900 horsepower cars I've driven. But yeah, full carbon fiber front end and all that. That guy's taken some time to really. I mean, so from my understanding, this guy actually bought his car from his dad, and it was his first car, and he's
yeah.
had it since.
One of
So
those, yeah,
yeah,
you know that story.
this car's seen some
Nasty.
stories.
Now the 3.0, that was like a diesel or an Australian car. Do you remember? Do you know exactly? I
It
forget.
was like an NA, like
Yeah, it
work-
can't. I
work
forget
truck
what.
was it
motor
like
or
an
something,
R31
right?
motor or something?
I want to say it was like a work truck motor or something. I don't think they ever came boosted.
Somebody listening knows the answer.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Fuck!
Like, yeah,
Like,
you idiots.
you idiots! It obviously came from a fucking Vanette. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something. Yeah. I think it's...
I know it came from something weird, though.
It's
and then,
something weird,
Like
yeah.
10, 15 years ago, they were like, wait, you can put like an RB head on this and fucking boost it to the
and
moon.
then boost it. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's wild, dude. I've never seen one in person. Like, you always read about it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I mean, if you open the hood and look at it, all you see is the RB26 head. You wouldn't know the difference unless they told you, and you know.
Yeah. It's like a 1.5 JZ, but less common, you know?
Yes.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah.
And that thing's definitely a ripper. It's faster than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So
Like most things we
That's
own
sick.
or strive to own.
Yeah. And then is this a GTO or a 3000 GT?
So it's a 3000 GT VR4. I wish it was a GTO. That'd be a lot cooler to be explaining right now. But it does have a freshly built motor we just installed. It does have upgraded turbos. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones they are. And then we're just getting finished with the ECU Masters Classic. Just getting everything wired up. It's getting ready to go to Chad Datas for tuning.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, so man, maybe I'll take some videos around the shop and just kind of show
Please
you guys
do. Yeah.
what we're looking at on the podcast. I'll put it in at the end
Dude,
of the
it's
episode.
so awesome here. Every time we come here, it's like a new
Yeah,
toys.
it is. I remember being a kid and like going to my dad's friends because they were into crawling and shit, but they would have this similar, you know, like everything you could ever want in a shop, basically.
Yeah, and it's like dude, it's so cool to like see like different builds of like what you would envision yourself. I'm like, I want to do that one day.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's kind of cool, but I don't know if I would spend my money on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's really
Yeah.
cool to see just so many different builds at different stages too.
Well, it's different for me too because we've been doing it for so long that now, you know, when Skylines pull up, our customers lose their minds, but we just see it as, okay, we got a Skyline. But for me, it's like I look around and I see the Chaser and I see like all the S14 and all that stuff. And yeah, it's super cool. But I'm more excited about the Evo that's sitting out there only because for us, that's something different.
Yeah,
You know, we see these all day long. So when you get something like an Evo or like the 97 STI I was showing you, that kind of stuff to me is more interesting now because now we're getting into more of a, I won't say the Evo's super rare, but it's rare to see one that's clean stock and well taken care of.
Yeah,
You know, so those kind of things for us make us a little more excited than all the JDM cars that come in because we deal with so many of them.
Yeah. I keep being the fuckboy customer, and I'm like, yeah, I'll bring my car for an alignment someday, and then I fucking never work on it and never bring it for an alignment.
I'm just as bad.
Dude, I can only imagine how many people, though, that are just customers do the same shit every day. They're like, oh, how much is this? And then they never hear from them again.
He's my best friend. I still haven't had my car worked on by him yet. Just because like, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
He's lying. It's because I told him no.
We don't want your money here.
Well, dude, it's interesting because I remember growing up, and my parents would always be like, you could do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, that's cool, Mom. Probably can't.
Yeah.
But
I
the
want
older-
to be a superhero. Like, what the hell?
yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Pro hockey player.
Yeah.
But then you see people like TJ out here just like living the dream. You know, I had a couple come by my chicken coop the other day. We won't talk about that too much, but she was like, she led like wellness retreats, and he was a stand-up comic. It's like when you watch House Hunters and they're like, I'm a butterfly collector and I do whatever. I'm like, how the fuck do you guys make a living, dude?
And our budget is
our-
1.1 million.
Yeah, we want to live on the beach in California, and yeah, no, that's insane.
But I feel like there's a little bit of truth to that. It's like if you're passionate about something enough and you
I think-
actually do the thing.
I think like my whole like they're like you can do whatever you want. You can be an astronaut, whatever you want to do,
Like-
but just no one said you had to work for it.
Right.
Which I think is what a
right.
lot of people get messed up. They're like, oh, why? It's not going my way or whatever. And it's like, well, did you work for it? Like,
Yeah.
do every event, this shop coming together, everything we do, it's like it's because it's passion. It's like what we love to do, and it's like staying up all night and like you say, like just driving around doing. You're not even getting paid to go drive around and talk to these guys. Like, I don't think the drifting is a for-profit thing. It's for fun.
no, the drifting's literally pretty much labeled as a nonprofit. Any money that's made through drifting goes back into drifting to make it even better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, buy new barriers and stuff like that. It's because it's passion. It's
Definitely need new barriers for people like yourself that have destroyed our barriers more than once.
So how have I not seen the video of me monster trucking my new new to me JZX90 over
Already?
barrier? Dude, okay, so I don't know.
Already?
I think I cracked the like something happened in the rack where it's like there's like a little bit of play now. Hold on, let me look up the where's
Honestly,
the book? Hey, you have the
chapter
book?
2
Hold
of
on,
the
here.
book of
Is this
excuses.
the book? Is this the
No, that's my. I need to use that actually.
the color checker? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, no, it's, so like the Manjis was just gave out to me in the middle. So I think I need to go send and probably do the S14 rack too and get it rebuilt. But
Do it.
yeah, it has like a little bit of play like at center now, so it doesn't really work. But that's a pretty good excuse, so you can come off of it.
You should add that to the book. There you go. Don't drop the mic.
Yeah, please don't drop my mic. But speaking of that, I mean, I feel like you're right. Like drifting, and I think that's a hard thing for a lot of enthusiasts, especially guys that have done it for a long time, is it's really easy to get burnt out on drifting with how expensive it is.
Absolutely.
Even at a
Keep it
grassroots
cheap.
level. Well, right, but it's like...
I mean, anything progression is
I
expensive.
feel like progressing and keeping it cheap are
it's
not
not yeah.
synonymous.
No, for not.
No.
But like for me in Japan, which kept me entertained for 2 years, was my progression was the same car, didn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
I did like instead of R32 lowers, I did R33 lowers or S14 lowers, which were 10 mil longer, and there was like $50 from a buddy of mine, and it gave me more angle.
Yeah.
And then like when I stepped up from like getting burners from on base and stuff like that from the clear out, when I ran out of all those, the next progression was like buying tires. But like you say, like after so many years or after so much entertainment, you want to do I always wanted a V8 car,
Yeah.
and I did it, and it's.
Right. And
The initial cost is crazy, but
Yeah.
like freaking another motor, $200, like come on.
But
You know what I mean?
Right. And I think Japan was a little bit easier too, because Kendas were like $50 a pop.
Oh, dude,
for
I think
most
I
sizes.
was doing like 245, 40, 17s for like $50, $60.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we were getting those down here for that same price before they skyrocketed.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
See, I was wondering about that.
So we saw Kendas. I mean, we were selling Kendas maybe not at 50, but we were selling them. I think when we first opened, we were selling 245 40s for like $75.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, and I mean, it was enough to where you could take a pair of Kendas to the track and last all day, and you'd spend
Right.
$150. Today, you're spending $150 on one.
Right.
I think as it gets more popular, that's just the name of the game though, because like now drift tax 240s have gone up, and like
Yeah.
these companies are coming out like making tires for drifting. You know what I mean? Of
Right.
course, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive than like getting an all-season Falcon or whatever else. You know that like people have had good success on. So I don't know. It's just you got to pay to play though. But if you're happy on just doing burners and like cheap tires, dude.
See, to me, it's funny because I try to explain to all the kids that show up out to like C group and stuff. They'll show up and you can tell they stopped at Martinez Tires on their way there and picked up. They spent $200 on 6 to 8 tires.
Yeah.
But then I try to explain to them. They say, "Well, I haven't seen you change tires all day, but you're better off buying a brand new set of tires and learning how to adjust your tire pressure properly and having a proper alignment to where you can go out there and run almost 2 full events on one pair of Kendas." I mean, I've
Yeah.
personally done it, and I'm not the type of person that does 3 laps and parks. I mean, I'm out there all day just trying to blow the car up and blow the tires off of it, and they still last. But it's all about knowing your setup and knowing what you need to do in order to make that longevity last for, keeping your costs low.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for
obviously
sure.
keeping costs low and drifting is something you want to do. It's hard to do, but you can. It's just to an extent.
But just like anything, do you go and buy like the cheap like parts, or do you buy the cheap parts, break it, then realize you should just bought the expensive parts off the bat and spend more money?
Oh, absolutely.
That
I-
assumes I buy expensive parts, though.
Yeah, I don't. I have a really bad problem.
I mean, if you look at it like a knowing of what expensive parts to buy and which ones you can get away
Yeah,
with. I mean,
yeah,
even
yeah.
on my Z, and
Yeah.
people are probably going to hate on this, but I've ran Godspeed arms, adjustable arms on the rear of my Z for the past 3 years. I've been hit multiple times. I haven't bent them or broke them, but I wouldn't be putting any kind of like super cheap angle kit on the front. I mean, I
Right.
went straight to PBM knowing that that's going to take more of a beating, and I want good angle, and I don't
Yeah.
want to just sacrifice spending $1,000 on a kit knowing it's not going to be great. Like, we know PBM's going to put out good stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think you just got to hear stories like that to know, like, if you're coming into it or if you're getting into a new chassis, like learning all the JZX stuff, dude. I only know 240s, like the angle kits and everything
Right,
with like
right.
JZX. and
Totally
the
different.
Interchange between IS 300 and stuff like that. It's like a completely new world. So I have to like get into the sometimes pretty toxic groups asking questions like, this has already been covered. I'm like, well, dude, I'm
Not
new
for
here.
me,
Yeah.
bitch.
New guy.
That's a good point, though, and we haven't talked about that. Is it's so important to know like what you can cheap out on, because a lot of people will shit on CX Racing turbo kits, but it's like the intercooler kit's fine. Like but I would never run a CX Racing turbo.
No,
You know what I mean?
absolutely not. But
It's-
I mean, you're right. There's some kits that come out there that have quality parts,
Yeah.
but they're unfortunately going to come with something that you don't trust.
Exactly.
Or like my drive shaft was a CX Racing drive shaft. with way undersized U joints for what I was trying to do. And yeah,
I don't love that.
Yeah, eventually
Off
I
the
did
bat,
it.
don't love that.
Because like ISR and the other companies, I think like the CX Race uses like a 3130, and then the other companies like a 3150 or something like that, like a bigger, like physically bigger U joint. So yeah, just save money where you can, but you got to know. And then the lessons are learned. I'm not hard. I'd learned a lot of lessons doing the LS swap and everything else.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine.
you can't be hard about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you, like you said, if you know where to go and you know where to start, you're going to do fine. I mean, for all the people that are out there trying to buy a Z and get into it, you don't need anything to get a Z ready to drift, but three things. Cheap
Welded
angle
diff.
kit from GK Tech, which is fantastic, a good starter kit.
Yeah.
A welded diff and a set of coilovers. The car's done. Go out there and drive. Then you want a better alignment, you want better grip, you want to go fast, then just get a cheap adjustable arms.
Yeah.
They work. You know, at least buy something that I'm not going to say Godspeed's a name brand, but at least they have a brand. Don't go buy something that says Ching Dang Yin Yang on it, you know?
Yeah.
Amazon parts.
Damn,
Yeah.
dude.
Amazon angle, baby.
Literally had ching ching ding ding in my shopping cart. I'm glad I didn't go through with that one now, man. Got me sweating over here. No, so that's, you're talking about how back to kind of drifting in the longevity of it, right? Like, how much thought do you put into, like, what does Yoi Kazoku look like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever? Is that something that weighs on you, or of like, what's the future of drifting going to hold?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, if drifting were to end here in San Antonio, it would put a huge damper on my business. But the way it's been growing and just kind of watching everything, I've never really seen it get super stagnant. I've seen it slow down a little. I've seen just like the same people show up and no new people. But eventually they show up if you build them something good. The kart track came and a lot of people showed up, but then again, we lost a lot of people because they were intimidated by the track.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, we just noticed a lot of our typical C group drivers stopped showing up because I think the track was just a little more intimidating for somebody that's just trying to learn how to keep the car sideways.
Yeah.
So giving that diversity that we're trying to bring now with a parking lot events and bringing back the old school C group, we're hoping to see more people come back, and with that would hopefully bring more longevity with drifting and with the type of business that I'm owning.
Yeah.
But for the next five to 10 years with this place, we definitely see it doing as good as it has been, if not better. Everybody knows when you start a business, the first 5 years is your hardest, and we're about to clear that, and we're hoping that means not that things are going to get easier, but things are going to get better.
Right.
So,
well, and the nice thing too is that drifting and import culture are pretty like hand in hand, and so it's even though it's a drift shop now, like, and probably mainly based on the clientele too, and like people that were here from ground zero, I'm sure like that probably had a big part in it. But but it's like you already know imports, you know what I mean? So pivoting even just for street cars, I feel like is a pretty even straightforward exchange if drifting were to just flatline for whatever reason, and I'm sure that's not going to happen.
And that's something we were scared of for a little while, because at the very beginning of us taking over for Club Loose, we started talking to venues, and other than the kart complex, people kind of put their noses in the air to us. And even at the karting complex, he was kind of giving us that we want to do events, but we don't know how many, and it started to kind of scare us a little, and that's why we started reaching out to other venues just to be safe, because if there's nowhere to host events, drifting will go stagnant in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And there's all these takeovers, there's all these kids going out and blocking down the streets, and all it's going to do is bring our drivers out to do that stuff because they have nowhere else to go. And that's not something we want to see. I mean, street drifting was always great back in the day, but in this day and age with the way things are going, street drifting is not something I would say is a good thing to do until, hopefully these takeover kids stop, but that's not going to happen.
They'll slap you real hard now. Like it's
yeah.
worse than it. Yeah.
I remember we used to go to like industrial parks and shit, and cops would come.
And they'd be like, all right, cool, just don't wreck.
Yeah, we would just tell them like, hey, we're just practicing, because we'd go to the same parks that like stunt riders would go to on their bikes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, we're just here to like practice, and there's not really events or whatever. And they'd be like, all right, well, you guys got to leave, but like it's cool. But now, and especially here in San Antonio too, like street racing has kind of always been an issue here, I feel like.
Yeah.
In Texas specifically, I guess.
And recently, they had a shutdown on freaking I-10 where there were
Really?
gunshots.
Damn.
So now they're like starting like.
I think I saw that video, yeah. It was,
Yeah, it's
and
bad,
that was
dude.
Takeover Kids again.
Yeah, takeover kids shut down freaking I-10, dude.
Damn.
So it's just, and everyone's like, oh, look, they're drifting. It's like,
Nah.
no, they're just doing donuts. Like,
we
come
see
on.
that all the time, and it gets labeled with drifting, and it's
Yeah.
putting such a bad name on it. So, I mean, if you're listening and you go to takeovers, please stop. Like,
stop.
come to the
Yeah.
track, come drift, have fun, do it in a place where everyone's gonna high five you for doing it,
Yeah.
and not look at you like you're ruining it for everybody else. You know,
Yeah,
you're,
for sure. Yeah, I don't want that.
all
anymore.
you're doing is causing problems, and your dad's F-150 is not that cool.
Dude.
Or your dad's Charger.
Yeah,
The
dude.
Banks Charger.
Yeah, true.
I used to have a Tahoe, and then I was in a Tahoe group, and somebody was at a takeover in their shitty Tahoe, and I'm like, bro, this is
the
not
one wheel peel.
Yeah, I was like, this is not it. Like, this
I-
is so
I-
not.
And
I
then
think
he
it-
responded with no Kamaka.
Okay, Mocha. I think it does bode well for the drift community that there's no S14s or S13s or like JZXs or like any like notable drift cars there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all
The Hellcats
Mustangs, maybe. I think I've seen one or two.
Yeah.
Camaros, Corvettes, Chargers, Challengers, like stuff like that. Not like anyone that I think knows what they're doing or getting into it and getting sheltered with the right crew knows like we don't want that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I think that does. I've never seen an S14 or anything like that. Like any cool car actually go to takeovers. So
You
I think
say
that
now,
does
and
bode well.
My inbox is gonna get flooded with S chassis at takeovers
Oh,
now.
no, don't post them. Just,
Oh,
just keep those
don't.
quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dudes.
sorry.
Especially the coops. No coops at takeovers. Don't
gotta
make us
keep
all
those-
look bad. Come on.
We can't.
we gotta keep the prices up.
Hatch guys, we know you want to be cool. Go ahead.
We can't taint the
Oh,
coops.
the disrespect.
I'm sorry. I don't mean that.
What's like one thing that comes through the shop, either it's a modification or something people do to their cars that drives you nuts?
You know what? Believe it or not, alignments. Alignments have always been that one thing that like we actually truly enjoy. Because there's so many places that go and you just get your factory Nissan specs, and no one really around here will give you a custom alignment. You walk into like Goodyear and tell them I want 6 degrees of camber in the front and 0 in the back, they're gonna look at you like you're a psycho.
Unless you
Right.
know the mechanic.
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
so other than that, I mean, the biggest thing that drives us of what comes in here is, I mean, we do a lot of rebuilds. We're one of the only shops around that'll really rebuild an SR20 or, you know, jump into your RB. Just like the other car I showed you too, the 1JZ build. Those things like that kind of push us a little bit. And believe it or not, even though we talk about drifting so much, we actually have a car that was here today. It's a 1987 300ZX that we built for SACCA or SACA
Sasco.
or whatever.
Yeah, SASCA,
And
yeah.
and no, not the San Antonio one, like
Oh, SCCA Sports Club.
yeah.
Of
And this
America
guy's-
or whatever.
America,
Yeah.
and we built this guy's car. We started working with him about 3 years ago. We kind of sponsor him, help him out where we can. And this guy took the championship all through the year in
Dang,
his
no
class.
way.
Dude, that's awesome.
And so that's some of that stuff too, as well
Yeah.
as like seeing that we can build you a race car and not just a drift car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we like to go out of our realm a little. I mean, you see, there's got an excursion sitting out here.
Yeah, I think when you're into motorsport, you're kind of into motorsport. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you see all
Yeah.
these pros and stuff do a little bit of everything, and it all looks freaking awesome, dude.
I mean, we've had people approach us to work on their Groms.
yeah.
Just because, you know, I ride one to work every now and then, and I've had people come up and go, do you guys work on bikes? You know, I'll be working on my boat in the weekend, and some guy shows up with a jet ski. I guess having motorsports in the names maybe confuses people. But, yeah, we like to work on just about anything, but there are things we won't touch. You know?
Real, so like, what's something that would roll in? Like, aside from like obviously something way out, but is there a car that could come in where you're like,
Audi,
Maybe not.
BMW, Mercedes, go home.
Damn.
anything Europe?
Shots fired.
Yeah,
I mean,
for real.
If we get something like, obviously people drift BMWs, they come in, they want alignment, stuff like that. If it's something as simple as like, hey, we need a valve cover gasket. If it's an
Yeah.
older like 90s model, we'll help you. But if it starts getting into some other things that just we have so much going on with everything else, we don't want to add more to our plate.
Yeah.
So a lot of European cars, we will sublet the work out depending on what's being requested.
I'm gonna assume electrical work.
Electrical, not too bad, but then when it starts getting into, okay, program modules and then pull this and probe it and all, no.
It's
no
all got to
thanks.
be the same numbers matching between all the
Yeah,
2100
nope.
modules.
You can take
yeah.
that to plenty other places here in town that will work on a European car.
and take a lot of your money.
Yeah, and that's another thing, man. We don't like to take people's money, man. That's not what it is here for us. I mean, obviously we're here to make money, but we're not one of those shops that goes, this guy just pulled in a brand new Mercedes. We could charge him 20 grand
Right.
and make all this money. No, like I mean, that's the best way to make your money is to be truthful and do a great job. I mean, you don't get rid of the cow that's giving you the milk. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like if you treat somebody good, you're going to make plenty of money off of them because they're going to come back to you. They're going to be loyal to you. And, you know, you don't want that quick dollar. You want something that's going to build that relationship. So you know that this guy right here is going to come back in 5 years and say, hey, man, I know I've been gone, but I need you to work on my car.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's definitely all about the customer relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Damn it, dude. I had one more question for you.
What
and
you
then
got?
I lost it. Well, I don't fucking remember, dude.
It's that
Fuck,
Jack
man.
Daniels little drink.
It was. Hey, well, I'm gonna have to bleep that. We're not sponsored.
I meant to
Ooh,
say
ew.
that black can drink that,
that
you
black
have there.
that black can beverage.
Yes.
Shit, dude. European
Spicy
cars.
water.
Oh, that's what I was
Dak
gonna
Daniels.
ask. Do you? What'd you call it, Dak Daniels?
That works. That works.
Hey, I am. We were talking about this before the podcast. I'm a fan of these kind of like really fruity drinks. I got
sure.
a Southern Peach here, and I go home with K-Man Jack. Shout out K-Man Jacks and Twisted Teas, and
Yeah, they are pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a bitch when it comes to beverages, dude.
I'm all about that Modelo, baby.
Ooh, Modelo
It's
time.
always
Ooh.
Modelo time.
That I remember what I was going to ask is do you feel like ever since you started a business that it's affected just your hobby side of cars?
Yes. I hate working on my own car now. Yeah, I used to love that when it was time to go home and work on my car. It was great. And I have a motor sitting over in the corner that needs to be torn down, and I've been staring at it for like 6 days just because, dealing with cars all day and dealing with different style race cars, at the end of the day, you just want to go home sometimes.
Yeah.
But then there's also that day where you just randomly, at the end of the day, you see your car sitting there and you say, you know what, today's the day. Like, let's make it happen. But it's put a little damper on the hobby, but then everything else that it brought, like getting affiliated with Club Loose and getting affiliated with so many people in drifting, it also makes me strive to want to do more with my hobby. Just the other day, we called Part Shop Max for some parts for one of our cars, and all I said was, hey, this is TJ from Yoy, and he just said, hey, what's up, man? How are you? And starts talking to me like he's known me for years, and just starts trying to hook me up, and he was a great guy, and I shout out to who you were. I'm sorry, I don't know your name right now. Off the top of my head.
PBM.
Not off the top of my head, but all the PBM guys, man, Part Shop Max,
They've been one of the OGs.
I back
for a
those
while.
guys as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, but.
Also, I love that they changed their name and everybody still calls them PBM.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just
doesn't roll off as good.
No, not at all.
no PBM for life.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, you guys
absolutely.
are stuck with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, even then, stuff like that, like calling in Juku and having your guy there as well, that just helps you and stuff. It makes you want to do more because then you start seeing people like Hurt and all these like pro drivers that kind of maybe never even became pro just because they're driving, but because of how they were affiliated with it.
Yeah.
It just makes you want to strive more because you never know. I mean, I never thought that I'd get approached to do a podcast. So
Right.
it's all about the opportunity that's given. So yeah, it makes your hobby want to push more because you don't know what kind of opportunity could be given to you tomorrow.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I could have somebody approach me and go, we want to send you to Japan to go compete in something. I'm not that great of a driver, but hell yeah, let's go. I'm in.
Yeah.
Just for the experience and the exposure. But I mean,
Right.
honestly, that's a freaking experience.
Well, that's a really good point too, because in the last episode we talked about that as well. About networking is obviously important just for anything, but just like for people getting into drifting, just starting out, like going to an event, even if you don't know anybody, you're gonna know somebody before you leave. If you want
absolutely.
to, the thing is, if you want to,
Yeah, you could be that guy who's like, oh, I'm putting my tires on, like not talk to anyone, give
Yeah.
them like the bulldog face,
kind of me to be honest.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, and some people just get into their zone when they're at drift events, like, take it however they want to take it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then there's other people that are like hanging out, high fiving, dude, that was awesome. This is what you could
Yeah.
do better. Like TJ and like other guys at Club Loose are like, hey, dude, enter this way with the e-brake instead of like trying to flick. You're not that good yet.
Exactly. It's all about like who you know, and I think too, like you mentioned, having that network can be so helpful. Just building those relationships too. Like nothing's worse than being in your garage by yourself trying to like make things happen.
And one thing about, I guess, drifting too is just turns everyone into an extrovert, like at the events. You know what I mean? Like when you're done driving, loading up the trailer, people I've seen like not talk to anyone and just like on their own, came from like Austin or Houston or something like that and go like, hey dude, you looked really good out there. That was awesome, man. Like
Yeah,
what's done to your
yeah.
car? You know what I mean? It's like just something common to talk about. Like, oh dude, and like get to know each other. Let me add you on Instagram and like, okay, I'll see you at the next event. Like it's just,
Right.
it turns everyone into an extrovert.
It's kind of cool too, because drifting is like that one sport. Like we take any of these cars right now to a drag strip, and the person you're going to go up against is going to be like, "Fuck you, dude! I'm here to beat you. You suck. Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, for sure.
And you show up to drifting, and if you even in a competition, you pull up next to somebody, you're not thinking about, man, I'm going to beat this guy. This guy sucks. Like you're actually thinking, man, I hope this guy brings his A game. Like even if I don't win, I want to see this guy on my door. Like I want to see the
Yeah.
best run. Screw winning. I'm here to have fun. And it's crazy because, like you said, the people that aren't willing to talk to anybody and they're keeping in their circle, somebody just goes up to them and starts giving them pointers. They start to understand, like, Drifting's where you show up and you say, bring your A game. And if your car breaks, even though I'm going against you, I'm going to come help you fix it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because I
yeah.
want to drive with you.
Yeah,
You know,
like-
so I think drifting's a much different style of motorsport community. And a lot of people that don't know what drifting is or see it would really appreciate the type of environment and hospitality that comes with it.
Yeah.
And like going back to like what's it called, autocross. I remember like people like go and like spectate and try to get ride-alongs. They're like, oh no, you're gonna throw off my time. It's just too much weight. I'm like,
Really?
really, like, you know, 140-pound kid or, you know, like a
Yeah.
100-pound kid. Like, is that really gonna be too much weight
Right.
to, you know what I mean? Like in a parking lot. I was like, okay, I guess every 10 counts. But like drifting, dude, just go ask, hey, can I ride with you? Let's go, dude. Like, you got a helmet?
Yeah.
Cool, and just go hit it. And
Well,
it's
nice.
the coolest thing to show off for people too that don't know.
And that's like the golden standard too, is like being kind, being supportive, and the guys that are not that way get ostracized pretty quickly because it's like
Oh, for
there's
sure.
there's really no tolerance for like being a dickhead.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
some
drifting
people deserve it, but you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
cool until you give me a reason not to be cool.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? I feel like a lot of people are that sort of way too.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think that's an episode, guys. We crossed the finish line.
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
brother.
thanks for having us on, man.
Y'all
This
were
was,
rad as
cool.
hell. Yeah,
this was
absolutely.
awesome.
I'm sure it won't be the last time.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find you. You know, you, the shop, everything.
Yeah, y'all can find us on Instagram, Google, Facebook, all that stuff. Just search Yoikozuka Motorsports. If anybody who's going, oh, what the hell does that stand for? Actually, Yoikozuka Motorsports stands for Good Family in Japanese. So Good Family Motorsports. So yeah, you can find us on all main social media platforms. I'll go ahead and let everybody know that since Club Loose is gone, we have officially announced that we are River City Drift. So you can actually add River City Drift on Instagram. There's no post yet, but we'll be posting it very soon. Maybe even by the time this podcast airs. But yeah, give us a follow. Come out and check it out. Come get ride-alongs. Come have fun. Meet new people. Bring your car out. If you ever need any work done here, we love to help new people. Don't hesitate to give us a call or even just stop by and hang out and come check out the cars. And also for anyone that wants to follow us on Facebook, we throw meets. We throw big events here at the shop once or
Barbecues
twice a
and
year.
stuff,
Big
yeah.
barbecues, food trucks, and it's kind of, you know, BYOB, come out, hang out, and just meet people, get to know more.
Yeah.
So yeah, give us a follow, give us a call, whatever you need.
Hell yeah. And then you personally, you're One Lame Z.
I am One Lame Z33. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. You're not going to be impressed, but go ahead and give me a follow. I'll definitely appreciate it. And you can also follow us as well on the shop. But yeah, One Lame Z33, baby.
Hell yeah. And then Tyler's our resident TikToker.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Dude, it's so hard to. I don't know how these like YouTubers and stuff start, man. But yeah, I'm Bednar Racing on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
That's going to kind of be the race car sort of thing.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
As always. So this is the second time we've done like a real in-person interview. They just signed off, dude. I didn't even say anything. They both were
That's
like,
it.
I'm just excited. Yeah,
they were like, all right, peace out.
I'm done about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the
I gotta
second time
use
we've
the
done it in person. Damn, bro. And so let us know in the comments if you like it or not. You know, we'll see about keeping these pumped out versus just me and Darius in our bedrooms. You know, obviously both have their place. Both are a lot of fun. We obviously miss Darius for this one. But yeah, and then you know where to find us on Instagram, Sincerely Japan Podcast. Email us, sincerelyjapanpodcast@gmail.com. And then we have the website, sincerelyjapan.us. We have free shipping on all the stickers if you buy 2 or more. So go buy some stickers, help us keep this thing alive. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
See ya.
See ya.